Okay, hey everyone. So welcome to another segment of Tip Time where we take a deep dive into your questions. Today there's a question that's been requested a few times, but there was a question from Brian that I read asking for essentially how we can practice on land. What I wanted to delve into today is a little bit through that question on does land practice work for our surfing, for our longboarding? And if so, what we can kind of do on land to help, progress us further forwards in our surfing. So I guess my initial thoughts are if we're going to be practicing our surfing, we've got to make sure that ideally we're getting in the water pretty regularly because that's when we're going to get our really good repetitions in. But the thing that we have trouble with in surfing is, getting that repetition, particularly because every wave varies and, a number of people have also been outlining that it's hard to practice certain things in some sort of waves. And what do we do if we can't practice nose riding, if we can't practice cross-stepping? So what I think land practice can be really, really good for is getting in the repetition where it might be difficult to in the water. We can do this for nose ride positioning. I think this is fantastic for your cross-stepping. Of course, when you're out in the water, you're going to get a lot of different problems in terms of the wave, in terms of where you position on the wave and, speed and everything like that. But for getting a really good solid foundation and, strengthening those pathways in your brain for how something should feel, so that muscle memory, that's going to be a big part of what we can practice. I'm actually practicing this at the moment because I'm trying to teach myself to learn switch, which is another video that we'll have coming up, which I'm really excited for. But I think it's really, really useful to get in a lot of repetitions and to just, you can do this tens, hundreds of times, walking up and down. So you'll have a better muscle memory and feel for spacing, how to distribute your weight from foot to foot. And I think this works for not only cross-stepping, but for a number of things when we're surfing. So as I said, nose riding or distributing our weight, going from a hang 5 to a hang 10, run backs, if we want to. And then also something I think it's really useful for is getting the correct position, I suppose, into a turn, coming back from cross-stepping. So say you want to be landing exactly in the right position, and you want to go from cross-stepping back into a turn, then out of that. I think it's really good to practice that as well. From my experience, what I've noticed is that if you do practice a lot on land, it just makes it feel a little bit more natural when you get into the water, and so you can make more progress in the water in that way. It's not going to teach you exactly how to do it in the water, but it's a really nice adjunct, I think. And what I would probably suggest is that you take your fin out of your board, get some pillows underneath your board or some really, really long grass, and then I would just practice on your actual board. There's other things that you can try, which I probably haven't seen as much success with regards to some people like slacklining. Some people just like to cross-step on something narrow because of the balance and the intrinsic foot muscles which you'll need to activate to keep your balance. You're there. There might be something for that. I probably wouldn't advocate for it as strongly as just getting that patterning or the muscle memory for spacing of your steps, coming back into the correct positions and everything like that. I think that's where your land practice can have a really, really good benefit. So how might your land practice look? First of all, I'd identify what you sort of want to work on. And then I'd practice it on land. Again, cross-stepping is a nice example for this. So get a feel and do a few repetitions up and down the board. Figure out that starting position, the spacing of the steps, where you want each foot to land. It's a really good time to identify different landmarks on your board of maybe where you want your feet to land as well. That can be a really good thing to do. And then when you feel like you've got the hang of that on land, go practice it out in the water. What will inevitably happen is you'll find the areas or the problems. So either you're finding you're losing your balance after the first two steps. You're finding that you feel like you're leaning backwards. Of course, if you can marry this with also having some video footage so you can see what's happening, that can be really, really useful. Once you've identified maybe the problems that we can work on technique-wise or in terms of how we're stepping, go practice that on land again and try to correct those aspects. It might be that these aspects where you're finding difficulty are only presenting themselves when you're in the unbalanced position, such as being on a wave. But I still think that repetition of the correct positioning can be really, really good. What land practice isn't going to be great at helping is, I guess, positioning on wave and replicating that wave feel. So everything we're going to be practicing on land is very much just for the motor patterning, the neural pathways that we sort of need to strengthen to make sure that it feels natural. So to make it nice and clear, we're going to use land practice to get a feel for a move that maybe we haven't tried before, or a maneuver that we haven't tried before. And then as corrections, or to strengthen the correct pathways when we identify the problems that we're having out in the water, to the extent that we can. It can't solve every problem, obviously. I think the areas that we want to focus on land, getting a board on the ground and cross-stepping or doing what you need to on that board, but figuring out exactly the right position that you need to be for the certain maneuver on the board. And then you can also focus on weight distribution really, really nicely, how much the knees should be bent, all of this. It's great to get some really good repetition of all of that in. And the more repetition we can get, the better. So I'd practice. You can even give yourself 15, 10, 5 minutes a day where you are practicing something. And I do strongly believe that if it's to do with, I guess, how comfortable and I guess limiting hesitation when we're out in the water, so increasing our confidence and how comfortable we are with doing something in the water, I think that's where our land practice can have a really, really good benefit. And just really quickly as well, if you've got any questions for next week's tip time, I'll try and get to those, so I'll place them in the comments below, and I'll pick one for next week, which should be good. And then we've got another good episode of the Sunday Glide coming up this week as well, so stay tuned for that. I'll speak to you soon. And don't practice with your surfboard on a skate ramp.